My name is Chike Emmanuel. Well, it is an exhibition.
Hello, please, can we have some volume down? Well, thank you very much.
You can see that the artist has decided to go public. So we assume that before now, because you used the word maiden, that all he's been doing has been in his closet. So the artist, Victor Elayon, has been generous enough to share his God-given gift with the rest of us. In sharing his creativity, he has given wings to our imagination and has given us a hope that we too, if we work hard, can be as expressive as him. This, I think, is very, very gracious of the artist. Every art has a message. Every art exhibition has a target. Victor has titled his exhibition Convergence. Convergence brings to mind a lokoja, a certain confluence, a coming together, a fusion of ability and expression. It is one thing to be gifted. It is another thing to bestow a gift. And I think that for every artist who decides to express themselves in this form, the message is clear. The first thing is that the platform is love. If you do not love society, you would not even start to present anything to society. If you're an artist, especially a painter, and you start putting paint, or what we call, you start staining canvases, you are like a poet that spreads his soul on a blank sheet of paper. So what we see here is the externalization of the internal man. There are things that he's had in his head. All these artworks are tenants that have room or space in his head. And he has brought them out so that we would know who and who occupy his being. And you can tell clearly that this is a very colorful representation of an otherwise ordinary, simple looking, youthful Nigerian. Victor, from his paintings, seems to have lived 1,000 years. Most artists should first and foremost paint for themselves. That's the best place to start. It is often a mistake to paint for other people, especially in our climate, where people do not have art appreciation, where people do not even respect the artist. Every artist is often treated like one who is unusual. Unusual in the sense that if you show me an artist's house, I will show you a madman's house. The artist lives on number 1A Kashem Ibrahim, and the madman lives in number 1B Kashem Ibrahim. They are oftentimes neighbors. But how nice, even in that madness, we consider the artist as being deliciously insane. So insane that his efforts are delicious. And it is when that happens that we seek to patronize the artist. But how can an artist survive when people just come, look at his paintings and say, oh, you can draw, and then they stroll off and do not encourage him by buying his work? It is at once a suicidal streak, one that kills the artist, and it's also a very wicked streak from the rest of us that are in society. We do not want to encourage our artists by backing them up with money. Very few are patrons of the art, and this has to stop. However, if the mountain cannot come to Muhammad, then Muhammad must go to the mountain. What people do not realize is that there is art in every single thing that we do. The artist should not restrict his art or art form to just the canvas. The artist should take his art beyond the canvas. For instance, the artist gets artsy when t-shirts and caps like you're wearing are produced. It takes an artist to design these t-shirts. So what if you start making wearable art clothing? If you look at Victor's pants, you will see shades of acrylic on his pants. I'm wearing pants with signatures on them, and it is somebody's signature. And just for the signature, you see there's a difference between 6 and half a dozen. You pay more just for a single splash of signature. Victor would one day want to have his signature on things, and just his signature will sell or even have more value than the items on which they are appended. So the artist has to come to town. The artist no longer should be aloof. The artist has to find ways of indelible expressions, impacting society, forcing society to notice him. If you do not say, here I am, nobody will say, there you are. So the artist has to be bolder. The artist has to be seen, be heard, and be venerated. The artist needs to be revered. There's a difference between theft and plagiarism. All right? First of all, plagiarism is a special form of theft where you mimic or outright copy the works of another person, or even take the works of someone and put your signature on those works as though they were your own creation. But I have news for you. We are all of us thieves. We are all of us guilty of this because we are poor copies. Everything you see in life is an imitation or a series of imitations. The only original is God himself. and then we are all mimicking him. And you may think that plagiarism is such a big deal. That was the exact reason Jesus Christ died. At Calvary, you had 3 thieves. There were 2 that were obvious thieves, notorious. Then there was one, our Messiah, who was also a thief. But guess what? What was he accused of? Stealing. This may shock you, but the main accusation that day was of a stolen identity. Are you the Messiah? And he would not say yes or no, and he just said to them, thou sayest. He was accused of theft. There were 3 thieves on the hill at Calvary that day, including Jesus Christ. What did he steal? They felt he had stolen the Messiahship. He was claiming to be who he was not. So, the case of plagiarism and claiming to be a Messiah is a classic case of plagiarism. You are plagiarizing the Messiah. You talk like the Messiah. You walk like the Messiah. You heal like the Messiah, but you are not the Messiah. Are you the Messiah? Are you he who we're expecting, who is to come? That has always been an age-old question. So the taste of the pudding is in the eating. If you know Jesus, you will talk like Jesus. You will walk like Jesus. You will be like Jesus. If you know Victor, you will enjoy his art. You will value his art. You would project his art. You would not want to steal his art. You will not want to copy his style. So, to eliminate plagiarism, know the artist. First of all, the artist, know thyself. Then, subsequently, people should know the artist. And if you want corroboration again, the classic corroboration is Jesus asking if people knew him. Who do men say that I am? Some say you're Elijah, some say you're John the Baptist come again, some say you're one of the prophets. But who say ye that I am? You, my disciples that know me very well. Who am I? And then Simon Peter said, you are Jesus Christ, the Son of the living God. And he said, look, not flesh and blood revealed this to you, but the Holy Spirit. So, the revelation, this is the beginning of the revelation of the artist Victor. If you get to know Victor, you will tell his work by a kilometer away, and his signature would be what it is. Even if he signs on water, he can walk on water too. About the stolen arts.
What can the government?
Yeah, okay, first, about the stolen art, the Benin stolen art. What is it that pushes us to theft? When we are overwhelmed by something. Theft in itself is an umbrella. There's a bigger parasol called covetousness. So what the Europeans did was more of covetousness. It was a grand-scale theft. Theft here looks like an umbrella, but covetousness is a parasol. They just couldn't contain their amazement. They were amazed, they were overwhelmed. People they thought had no civilization awed them with what they could produce, not just with any substance, but with bronze. They carted away works. They didn't just take 1 or 2 pieces. They carted away valuable works. They didn't steal art. They stole a civilization, as though taking away all that bronze was going to obliterate the fact that the black man in sub-Saharan Africa was capable of producing any meaningful work. The artistry of ancient Benin Empire was in a class of its own. It was a mastery of artistry like no other. No other in the world. Even the Egyptians could not do, I've seen Egyptian art, the bronze statues of and gold statues of Tutankhamun and all that. They didn't and could not compare with the Benin pieces. So, when it comes to return of these artifacts, what is being returned are the mere symbols. The desecration cannot be undone. The humiliation, the lethal blow to the Benin civilization cannot be undone. What they are doing now is a very poor reparation for a most heinous crime. So yes, they can return the pieces. Even this present age may not have the value that Benin people of 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago had for those artifacts. Those artifacts were in themselves synonymous with the very existence of the Benin people. They were sacrosanct. They were objects that were masterpieces. So taking them away killed the artists, it killed the people, it killed the psyche of the Benin people. So what they're doing now is cosmetic, and no amount of cosmetics can replace the real thing. So my take is, well, the damage has been done. Damage control is too late in the day, but if this gives them atonement, maybe they're just returning it so they cannot make hell. But their grandfathers that took them are already there.
So, lastly, what does this mean for Africans and black people in the world?
It means celebration. We should realize that not all good things have come from the white people. They saw the good in us and they took it. And you know the sad thing, it is not stealing, but being unable to imitate that which you have stolen. Those works were so good, they were inimitable. They could not be reproduced. They could not add to the civilization of the West. They just kept them there behind special glass showcases, and for hundreds of years, they were spellbound, held in awe. The African should see that as a clear indication that what we truly have, the whites do not have, and they will never have.